What is up, guys? Strike with Strike Gaming here, and today we're going to be doing a Iron vs Challenger review. Same as the other ones. I hope that you guys are enjoying this series. We're going to take a look at this Renekton in his first 10 minutes in Iron, and then we're going to take a look at a Renekton in their first 10 minutes in Challenger. I think we're going to see some pretty distinct differences in kind of how they play the game out. Now, good on this guy actually is that he's getting himself in a good starting position. Not bad, especially into a Yorick level 1 to take this bush or maybe the bushes up here to try and get a nice early trade with the Yorick. You're going to have better sustain and better damage, especially taking PTA. Let's take a look at the build. Yep, Dorn's Blade with a pot probably best in this build. Or best thing to build early into a Yorick. So let's see here. Alright, so Yorick uses his early ward. Renekton gets one auto off, gets that bone plating down. Let's see if he uses his Q here to secure all of these minions. Yep, he gets all three. Two, pretty good. Would have been nice to see him kind of focus one minion in order to build up that Fury. He's doing a good job of paying attention to the farm, but he should still be looking to trade back. He doesn't have to take those autos for free here. Now, something that we see quite often here in lower elo is we see this where it looks like fundamentally it's just poor wave management, right? Like, are we trying to do a second wave crash? Are we trying to do a third wave crash? And if so, what is the plan? Why are we doing it? Are we doing it because the Nocturne is pathing up and we want the rebound on the third wave? Are we trying to get a cheater recall? You know, should we be slow pushing here? What's the actual goal here? So let's see what he does with this second wave crash. But quite often I think that it's just they see priority and that's all they know. Really good trade, honestly, having the Fury stacked up, getting PTA first, and then using the Q after to maximize their damage. He doesn't want to be autoing this wave, though. This is a really big mistake. By doing this, he's pretty much putting the Yorick in the situation where he gets to farm under tower, and he's completely safe. Not the greatest Q, kind of wasted his Fury there. Better to use it when you have multiple targets and you can get a bigger heal. Like I said, this is kind of what I expected to see a little bit. He's in this really awkward situation now where he's honestly, if he would have let this push out, I think, and then, you know, played in an extended wave state where he didn't have to worry about that tower, I think that he would be better off and he might have actually been able to get a kill here. But now he's just in this really awkward spot where all of these trades are happening too close to the tower. And when he's taking these trades into the big wave like that, you can see this wave still isn't pushing out. This would be a really bad time for him to get ganked. But luckily, because he's Renekton, he can handle these ganks pretty well because Yorick just doesn't have the damage. He is doing a fairly good job farming. He's got a good CS lead here. So I will say good CSing, right, overall, which is something that we haven't seen in a lot of these. Poor wave management still. I mean, he can't really set up a dive here. He is doing good at punishing the Yorick when he walks up to last hit, but there's not really any key cooldowns for him to punish around this Yorick. And there's the gank. This is kind of what we talked about earlier, right? Where because of the situation that he's put himself in, right, now he's open to a gank. Had he played the wave management better and let this shove out, he doesn't get ganked here. And the other thing that we can talk about is it's kind of poor use of vision. I mean, he had a ward down. He saw the Yi coming. He could have just ran. There's no need to fight this 1v2 in an extended lane state where you're fighting into their wave, right? I actually like this TP quite a bit. He still has this vision, so he's pretty secured. He's bought two, long swords, so he definitely has an advantage here. Now, if he clears this whole wave, that's going to be a problem. If he lets this push into him, that is ideal. Alright, Yi is still up here, so now he's wasting a little bit of Yi's time, which is a good thing. But overall, this is becoming a really difficult lane for him to manage, because that's a really big wave, and if he takes a trade here, and it's a bad trade, he's gonna lose a lot of minions if he ends up dying under tower here. Very good CSing. Very good job at not, losing that wave. This Yorick should have backed. We can see that the Yi is actually in this bush. He gets out again. Very nice. He should be able to use his Q here to heal. Yi is probably going to stay. Maybe flash out and just Q on him and he dies here. What this Renekton needs to do in this instance is he actually needs to just soak XP and get 6. At level 6, he might actually be able to beat them in the 1v2, but he's got to be patient. If he walks up here and he gets beat out, it's going to be really tragic for him. Alright, warding that. Very good. Good heal. Got the flash out. I don't think... Oh, well, nope. There's the 6, and that's a kill. Honestly, very well played. From an Iron player, I would not expect to see that kind of control, and very intelligent toward that bush. I still think it was a little bold of him to walk up when he did, but I mean, 17 CS lead, he's got a kill, he's playing fairly well, playing pretty controlled. Yeah, I think just backing off here is fine, right? No need to risk it, take the reset. Yup, don't greed for the plate or anything crazy. Overall, pretty good. So, I will say that something that I'm seeing executed fairly well here for such a low elo Renekton is you're seeing how he's going in with his E, he's Wing and then he's Qing, and then he's getting out with his E. That's the basic trading pattern with Renekton, but in a lot of these videos so far, what we've seen with a lot of these Iron players is that they actually don't understand the fundamentals of their champion very well, and what those trading patterns they're supposed to be doing are. Now, lucky for him, because the ghouls are here, the tower will actually focus the ghouls first and allow him to set up to collect more of the CS. Now here, I think he could have gotten that whole wave just by Eing. I think his W is the more valuable cooldown, but maybe not, given that he's playing into a Yorick. It's hard to say. So Yorick's playing pretty respectfully here, but with the Maiden extended up, I think you're perfectly fine to just kind of beat up the Maiden a little bit. Yep. And as I said it, he did it. I'm telling you, this Iron player is playing fairly well. You know? I think that this build that he's going for, I'm assuming that it's Eclipse because he's looking to fight pretty aggressively into this matchup. I think that he can kill these ghouls, stay in combat a little bit longer, generate Fury, and he'll be fine. Now he sees that Yi is on the bot side, so let's see what he does with this information. I think now would be a perfectly good window to double E in and get, yup, a good trade. There it is. Now the ult is definitely a little greedy and a little early. I don't think the ult was needed. I think he could have saved his ult and maybe used it later, and he would have had a really good setup for a dive here. Because he used his ult early, now the dive opportunity isn't really there. Had he chunked him out to half, generated Fury, and then gone under tower, he probably has a pretty good dive setup here. Now here, I think the best thing he can do is probably proxy this wave. This indecision of just kind of walking around and doing nothing doesn't really help him. He could have proxied this wave, set up a back, and then Yorick would have had to stay in lane, get the cannon, and he is sitting on 800 gold right now, which would be a pretty sizable spike in terms of purchase. That might actually be 860, 880. Might have actually been enough for him to get his Eclipse. So we'll see what he's doing here. He's still playing very patient. He's letting the wave stack up. He's not hard shoving kind of mindlessly here. I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm pretty impressed with this this gameplay overall. Now what we can see is that regardless of the fact that he doesn't have ult, when his E comes back up here, the best play for him would actually be to dive while he still has this Fury. So let's see if he fully executes on this. I'm really interested to see if he can make it happen. All right, see now he's proxying, but the thing is, when that E was missed, I think it's his E. It is Yorick's E. When Yorick missed that E, that was the perfect time to just dive in and kill him under tower. With the ghouls shoving here, this isn't really a dive angle anymore. He's just kind of walking around and now wasting his time. So 80 farm at 10 minutes, 1 kill up. He didn't really respect the jungle, and he's kind of scuffed his ult usage a little bit. But overall, I would say this is pretty good for an Iron player. I honestly would. I am impressed for this. So you there. It's you. You got some explaining to do to me. All right. What's up with this? What if it's about? People are watching, but you're not subscribing. Subscribe. All right. Back to the video. I'm watching you. Watching you. Okay, so here we are in the Renekton game with the Challenger Renekton using the skin that I like. So I appreciate that just to start here. Let's see what happens here. So similar to our Iron Renekton, but almost better in a way, I prefer the in-lane bush to the early bush that is in river. He's going PTA into the Conqueror Yone, which I kind of like because he's going to be looking for those short trades. He's still going to be very good in the extended trade because he is Renekton, but I think that this gives him a little bit more breathing room. We can see him using that Q early just because he knows that Yasuo is going to be, or not Yasuo, Yone, excuse me, is going to be using his Q. We can see that he's doing a good job of trying to space so that he can hit the Yone with the Q while he hits the wave at the same time. A lot of higher level Renektons will do this in order to try and get Prio at the same time. Now he's giving up the push here, which I think is just intelligent because he knows he has to. Yone's just got a lot of pushing power early with that Q, and with his W shield, there's not a lot that can be done. He's doing a good job at not really giving up any CS here, right? Even committing the E to make sure that he's getting as much farm as possible. Yep. So given how this lane started, I think he's doing a fairly good job. He's up in CS, and now with the bounce back, he's pretty much going to be even in priority. We'll see what happens here. Okay, so he misses the E a little bit. A very nice trade back there at the level 3, getting the PTA proc with the W, and then immediately using the Q. So I think what we can tell by this trade alone is that this player has a much better understanding of Renekton's Fury Bar, right? That E through the wave to then get just enough Fury for the empowered E to proc PTA before he goes into the Q already kind of speaks to a higher understanding of the champion. We saw a very good understanding of the champion with the Iron player, surprisingly, but we're definitely seeing something that's a little more high concept here. Now, as soon as he misses, yep, I was going to say, as soon as he missed that Q and ended up in that extended wave state, I was pretty sure that he was dead. And I think that you can tell the controlled aggression coming out of, you know, this guy as a Grandmaster Challenger player, and just like the nuance of his champion understanding is just so much higher. It's really easy to be aggressive on a champion like Renekton just because he has so much early game power. Now, I'm curious to see what happens here, and that's what I thought would happen. He's actually TPing back here, and the reason he's TPing back here is because he wants to break this freeze and not give this Yone way back into the game, which overall I think is a great thing to do. He has the item advantage. Yone really can't fight him in this wave without taking a losing trade for the most part, so he gets that shove in, gets that done, and now he's back out on the map. I think this is also a good idea because unless his team has seen Hecarim, I don't have Fog of War on right now, and they know where he is, this also sets him up to potentially help his Fiddlesticks and River, who has Prio, and he knows that Yone probably is going to roam because he's, you know, doesn't have priority in the wave, and he also doesn't have Flash. So, very interested to see how this plays out. This Yone is, you know, being pretty aggressive. But I like the fact that you're seeing this Renekton play right on the edge of kind of trading health for health. Because he knows that he has more sustain in lane, and he also knows that because he's running PTA, he has the higher kill pressure when they're both low. He genuinely has more burst, so he's not worried about taking these kind of trades. Now, with Fiddlesticks coming into counter gank here, it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out, right? He can do the ward here, but now he knows that Hecarim is not in lane. So let's see if maybe he tries to bait this. If he just tries to play it dumb, maybe. No. He's just going to play it very basic. Yasuo, or Yone, excuse me, is not going to overextend. we're seeing a lot more controlled play, which is to be expected in this elo. But still, I love the wave management. The wave management being the key thing here. I mean, you can tell that he's shoving, he's playing off of his rebounds, he's, you know, he's CSing well, and he's really using that slight lead to really pressure this Yone out. Yone may not be down a lot, but just being down a little bit in terms of that one kill, and you can see the pressure that this guy is exuding. Now, in this instance, with Fiddlesticks being bot side, and the assumption being that Yone is bot side, I'm curious if we're going to see a dive executed here. It would be pretty aggressive, but him having ult makes it possible. Now, what we're seeing here is a very high elo concept. I want to go over this really quickly because this is a big deal. So, Renekton didn't full commit to the dive, and the reason why is because what we talked about earlier, he's running PTA, so he has higher burst potential. So what he's doing is he's just chipping the Yone down to pretty much a kill threshold where he knows he can 100 to 0 him, and he's saving his ult for the redive. So I'm going to be shocked if he doesn't hard push this out looking for the redive, or maybe he's looking to give him the rebound, but overall, I think that he's going to be looking to dive here, especially now that the E and the W is down. Yone is in a very, very bad spot. So all he has to do is get this next wave in. He sees that the Kiana's there. He sees the Hecarim coming up. He's either got to commit to the dive here, or he might back off now that Hecarim is in the vicinity and Hecarim is 5. But overall, he's still in a very, very strong place. You can see that he's saving a lot of his fury here. Alright, I think we're going to see the dive take place here, especially since Hecarim is in the river, or he's going to rotate to help his team. Let's see. I think he's rotating down to help his team here. It's unfortunate because I do think that the stronger play would have been to dive the Yone. I mean, Yone has ult, but I don't think with his E down he would have been able to survive the Hecarim's full burst, or the Renekton's full burst here. Now we're continually seeing him use this E to just kind of like get in range and trade. He's always managing his wave before he roams. So he is missing, you know, he is missing out on being here right away. But overall, I think it's going to be worth it because of the fact that he's making sure that Yone is missing so much here. He's got Yone in a great place where he's missing farm. The wave is rebounding to him. He's pushed everybody off of the grubs. He's got full control here. He's almost gotten his mid laner a kill too. I think that auto there is just to maintain fury, which is kind of what we talked about before. You can see that exceptional control of his passive. If this Yone goes in here and gets hit with a WQ, I think he's dead. So him pulling off there makes a lot of sense. Now, Renekton has flash at this point, so it'll be very curious to see if he commits sums, but I don't think he will. I think what we're going to see is we're just going to see a hard push here because he knows that the Yone is resetting, and then immediately after the hard push, he's going to reset himself. I think it's surprising to me somewhat here that we're not seeing a faster push. I think with a faster push, he could have had a cleaner reset. But I guess overall, he doesn't really need to reset. But he is sitting on 1900 gold. After that kill in River, I would have expected a reset. I'm not going to lie. But let's see how he plays this out. Maybe he's just looking for a good exit trade and sticking around so that his jungler still has prio on the grubs. Now he will have TP up here in a minute, and he may be able to just TP back. We'll see if he does that or see if he runs it out. Looks like he's going to run it out. He could have also been sitting on that gold because it looks like he perfectly got Eclipse. So I think that's probably the actual reason. So I would say that this player also has a really good understanding of item spikes. You know, and I think sacking one wave for that Eclipse purchase overall is worth it. So we'll kind of fast forward here. See him get to lane. I'm really, really liking the control that this player is exuding. I mean, even though he didn't take those dives earlier, I think that he's played, in a way where he's making sure that he's not being over aggressive, but he is making sure that he's in a position to punish any time this Yone oversteps, which is very evident. At this point, the Yone is dead, 100%. So let's go back and watch this somewhat. And I think we can see exactly how he plays this, and it's important to pay attention to the nuance of the mechanics here. And this will probably be the last thing that we cover, and we'll finally get to see a Renekton dive. So he ease in initially, saves his W for when Yone tries to recall back to his shadow, and then just gets as much chip damage down as possible there. And then now what he's going to do is he's going to stack full Fury, and he's just going to dive him. There's no way that Yone can make it out of this. His E is still on cooldown. You can see that the Renekton held all of his abilities to make sure that he didn't take aggro too early. Yone uses all of his CC and his flash. Renekton eats it all, saves his ult, and doesn't even have to commit it. Beautiful, beautiful job, right? So just very controlled play. Very precise. You can tell that this player has a plan, and he's executing it. So we'll kind of move on to the summary here. So what I'm seeing primarily is, right, when we look at this and we'll say Iron over here, Challenger over here, right? There's poor wave management here. There's good champion understanding, right? And then there is good trades, I would say, into a pretty basic matchup though, into a Yorick, right? Um, no respect for the jungler, we saw that evident with the fact that he pushed up even though he had a ward. Um, and then we have to ask ourselves kind of, from there, what did the challenger player do better? Well, we see great wave management first off. Phenomenal trades. Phenomenal champion understanding, and frankly just much more controlled. I mean, watching how often this player held his abilities and played around that Fury bar in Renekton, you can tell that he really, really has a nuanced understanding of the champ. Um, Despite expecting worse play from the Iron player, and maybe it was because it was a Yorick matchup, I was actually fairly impressed. Um, and kind of the last thing that we can look at here will be CS, and unsurprisingly, the Challenger Renekton has a better CS, but 80 CS at 10 minutes for a Iron player, pretty good. So that'll be it for this one, and I will see you guys in the next one. Let me know your thoughts and what you think about the series, what champions you want to see next in the comments down below. And thanks.